And we are live. And welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. And I'm here with my man. Say hello, sir.
Hello, how are you doing, Jay? It's nice to be back. Thank you for inviting me back for the latest discussions on some interesting ideas for Star Trek Picard Season 3. The finale is coming along, and you're certainly a person who has a lot of news and potential ideas, and we want to share some of those ideas tonight, don't we?
It's going to be exciting. We got the last 2 episodes dropping, and I think we can admit it's going to be exciting. So, hey, let's do the intro and we'll crack on. That music ends a bit too quick. I'm going to have to get my man to have another go at that.
Fade out. I could do that for you. I'm going to go able to muck about with it. It'll add a bit of reverb.
Cool. I could probably do it if I wasn't such an idiot. Right, guys. So, we are going to be talking Star Trek this evening. We are going to be talking about Picard Season 3, the very surprising, exciting Picard Season 3. Yes. I genuinely can't believe it's been this good. Just really quickly, how much have you enjoyed Picard Season 3?
I will very, very faithfully say that this is the best Star Trek I've seen in nearly 20 years, since the end of Enterprise. Personally, I just feel that from what we've seen in just these first 8 episodes have delved so much into the lore, the continuity of the Star Trek universe, but particularly the 24th century, 25th, and it's ticked all the boxes for me. So it's huge. It's fantastic.
I've adored it. I admit I can't. I'm with you. I think Strange New Worlds is great, and I've really enjoyed Strange New Worlds.
I like that too.
I love Prodigy. I think Prodigy is great. I love Lower Decks, but this is the best live action Star Trek. This and Strange New Worlds they're close, but
very, very high standards. Brilliant.
Yeah, after the total shit show of season 1 and 2 of Picard, it's a joy, to be honest. And I actually said, if Picard season 3 lets me down, like Picard season 1 and 2 did, I would walk away from Star Trek. That would be me done. And I'm very glad to say I don't have to walk away from Star Trek, because it's been great.
You can hang around. You can come back. I think it's a very strange thing because after such an uneven start with the Discovery show, which has its fans, fair enough. It's not quite worked for me, but it's obviously appeals to some demographics, and it's kind of like. For me, it was getting the confidence back in Star Trek after some of the misdirections after it came back on CBS Paramount, and it's now that they're steering clear with Strange New Worlds, and then of course Picard had a very rough beginning. I actually didn't mind the beginning and the end of Picard season 2 because Terry Matalas was involved with that as well. Yeah. But season 3 was a whole different dynamic, and I have so many ideas as to how this show is going to end, and this is what we want to talk about.
Yeah, if season 2 had been 4 episodes, I think it would have been all right.
Absolutely.
Except they did nuke to the Borg and make the Borg completely useless in the end. And no, but I'd say we could do an whole episode just talking about Jurati's Borg and how it didn't make any sense. But anyway, I will just mention really quickly. I do think there's been a few mistakes in Picard season 3, and there's a few things that don't make sense. But they're so minor compared to Picard season 1 and 2. I don't care. And we're going to talk about the fleet coming together at the end of this season. That's the whole point. The entire staff, the entire
Frontier
fleet,
Day,
the Frontier Day is coming to Earth. And we'll talk about how that makes no sense because it takes 6 months to cross the Federation. So for like a year, the edges of the Federation are going to have no defenses at all.
Yes.
None. But that's a thing that Star Trek always does. During Star Trek First Contact, the Borg are attacking the Earth. The attack starts. The Enterprise E is out right by the Romulan border, as far away from the
battle. Gets back, and it's suddenly back in 2 minutes, and it's there. Yeah,
it just goes. Let's go back, and they're there, and it's slap bang in the middle of the. So that's a thing that they ignore in Star Trek all the bloody time. But anyway, the final villain for Picard season 3. We don't know actually who it is. We thought it was the Changelings, but now the Shrike has been destroyed. Yes. Captain Vidic, who's my favorite villain in Star Trek for ages, she was great, is dead. So we don't actually know who was pulling the strings. But we know Pizza Face, the guy that when she cut her hand off and talked to her, isn't a changeling, because he kept talking about your species and your thing, and you're not as advanced as you think you are, and all this nonsense. Right? So, who is the main villain? Now, I think it's the Borg. Thoughts?
I've looked at lots of discussions about it with people, and there are lots of directions pointed towards the Borg. It's like, come back to us. We've actually heard Dr. Crusher's voice in some of these visions, which is slightly misleading. But maybe there is something to do with some subconscious connection to a collective, and he's hearing the collective through his own mother's voice. It's very unclear, but it does seem very likely to be the Borg, personally.
There's been a lot of links back to Locutus. It's been mentioned a lot.
Yes.
There's been one or two little awkward. I said the first episode there was this bit where Picard gets that coded message from Beverly, and the first thing he says is, "Don't trust anybody." So the first thing he does is run to Riker.
That's right.
And he says, "What's this bit?" I can't remember the word she uses, but what's this thing? And Riker said, "Oh, you wouldn't know about that. You were incapacitated, and it was something to do with the Battle of Wolf 359. We got this virus, and it messed with our navigation."
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I always said that didn't make any sense, because one, Picard would have read the reports afterwards, and if something had messed with the navigation systems, it would have been in a report somewhere. But anyway, we'll ignore that bit. But I always thought that was just an opportunity for him to mention Locutus, because he says incapacitated. Oh, Locutus. Yes. I'm going. I can count a million times you were incapacitated, Jean-Luc. There was that probe thing that made you live an entire lifetime on another planet. There was that time that the Ferengi came and you got the headache. And there was that time, like listing them off. And the TNG went, you were incapacitated a lot.
A lot, yeah, absolutely.
But it was an excuse to mention Locutus, I thought. So for me, and there's this thing that he's got that disease,
Neuromotic syndrome.
Neuromotic syndrome that he's got. And now they've said, well, okay, that's not neuromotic syndrome. So is that a leftover from when he was Locutus, when he was assimilated?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, as you say, there has been a lot of callbacks to the Next Generation. This is one thing which has always been very good in season 3. And of course, two of the biggest things which have been focused on is, again, because Picard technically died of neuromatic syndrome, and of course him being Locutus of Borg, it was one of the biggest things. So I do think there is potentially some links because it's brought up, but of course it has been brought up a lot in previous seasons as well. And of course I still wonder whether that's potentially, it might be a mislead, but it just seems to me that because of the history, and also, I've wondered whether, if Jack technically was conceived, which sounds a bit bizarre, after Picard was returned from Locutus, whether there's something in his DNA that could have been transferred to Jack or something. There's something, but then they've been after Jack rather than Picard, so that's confusing.
They only started looking for Jack when they realised they got Picard's body.
Yeah,
from Daystrom.
That's true. I already had the body. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they had the body already.
And then they started looking for Jack. It's like they got Picard's body expecting to be able to do whatever it is they're going to do with Picard's body.
Yeah.
And then they were like, it doesn't work for whatever reason. So they've gone, we're going to have to go. And so then they started looking for Jack.
That's a good point.
I think if they'd have needed Jack before, they'd have captured him weeks before. They'd have.
So you're saying is that because they captured Picard's body and they realised that something that they need is in his offspring, that's when they went after Jack. Is that what you're suggesting? Yeah. Okay.
Or they need his DNA for something. I mean, they've suggested they need his DNA because they're trying to do a replicant of Picard, and I'm like, that's a red herring. That's an obvious red herring. We know that doesn't make sense. But Terry Matalas, who's written the series, does like to take us one way and then switch it suddenly, and we go the other way. And I think that's brilliant writing. Mm-hmm. I also though like how he doesn't drag things out like the Jack's Picard sons didn't drag that out.
It was just there. Yeah, that was a very shocking sort of like moment, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was done really well. Yeah. There's a couple of other reasons why I think it's got to be the Borg. Vadik, when in the last episode, when she was aboard, they were on the bridge and Jack comes in. Vadik actually says to Seven of Nine, "It's very good. It's great that you're here," sort of thing. It's a really opportunity. It's logical that you're here, sort of thing. And she sort of says, and she says that directly to Seven of Nine. So I'm like, well, the only thing I can think of that is that why Vadik is so happy she's there, and that it's like ironic or something that she's there, is because Seven was Borg.
Yeah.
So there's that link. I mean, I can't imagine what else it could be. That why Vadik singled out Seven to say that.
I mean, there was always the Voyager trope of every episode there's a problem, and Seven of Nine always fixed the situation with their nanoprobes. Yeah, it was a very prevalent thing in that. Wouldn't Picard have also had nanoprobes even after he was Locutus? Wouldn't that be left over?
And we know that they were left over because in First Contact, Picard could hear the Borg. He could hear the whispers. That's so right. There must have been something left over. And that I think they've made a little bit of a mistake in that they're saying that Jack is now psychic. And I think they're going to point to that Picard could hear the voices when he was the Borg. So I think they might say that it's kind of the same thing. But I would say, well, no, that's not. He's hearing the collective. He's hearing the subspace signal. That does not make sense then why Jack is now suddenly psychic. But I do wonder if that's where they're going with that. And I think the Red Door is literally just some sort of psychological thing that's like blocking Locutus, basically. And when they're going to
go, you mean it's like a defense? You mean it's like a defensive barrier?
Yeah,
and he's got the compulsion, maybe from the Borg or whatever it is, to actually open the door to reconnect in some way.
Deanna's there going, "I'm going to help you through," and I'm like, "No, don't, you stupid woman, don't do it. Leave the door shut." If anything, if you know from psychology, if somebody's got a big red door and they have suddenly got psychic abilities, leave the fucking door shut. I'm just saying, just leave it until after the ended and the threat's gone.
Just leave it alone. Yeah, like don't play with fire. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Another thing that I was interested is what was Locutus, right? Because Shaw made the point in it was episode 5 when he's having a go at Picard, and he said Locutus was so bad they named him, and I think that was really prevalent because obviously the Borg didn't have names; they didn't have they had numbers. The Queens were queens, and we know we think there was more than one of them, but I mean, or they're the same being but replicated. Locutus seems to be unique within the Borg.
Well, the thing is, I mean, Seven also had a similar premise because she was a communication conduit for Voyager. I know it's not the same thing, but there was some parallels that Locutus was supposed to be the representative of the Borg communicating with Invasion of Starfleet. He was like an icon, like a figurehead. He wasn't a Borg queen or a Borg king, but he had something different from the normal Borg, which made him different. Yeah. But I do agree with that. But I still think that didn't Seven have a similarity in some ways, that she was also a representative?
She didn't have a name. She didn't have a designation, did she? She wasn't considered special enough to name her. Locutus, there was something different about Locutus or special that he actually got a name. Now I'm wondering, is Locutus just Picard Borg, or is Locutus something else that was then blended sort of with Picard? Because then Picard led the attack. He wasn't just a figurehead. He was leading the attack. In Wolf 359 and the battle with the Enterprise, we see Captain Picard with the big screen basically controlling everything.
There was a great scene in The Best of Both Worlds where Guinan was talking to Riker about the fact that they've got to defeat Picard.
Yeah.
Not just the Borg, because the Borg now was partly Picard. Yeah. Because, as you say, it wasn't just like assimilation; it was more than that. As you say, his essence was a much stronger aspect of the Borg because of his experiences. So there could be some agreement in what you're saying, that there was a difference And that difference maybe is something which is coming back to where we are now. I see where you're coming from.
Just as an interesting sidebar, we'll come back to Locutus in 1 second. But Kevin's made an interesting point and just reminded me of something. There's a theory that the Borg are actually a threat to the Q and the continuum, and that because they look for perfection, so they would see something like the Q, and even though the Borg might not be a threat to the Q now, they might be at some point in the future. And there was a theory actually that the Federation was introduced to the Borg to create a proxy war, so that we would actually defeat the Borg or weaken the Borg for them. So maybe Q is going to jump into this at some point.
Well, I mean, obviously Q introduced the Borg to the Federation in the first place. So, and we know that the Q died out. What if there was something? The Q died in season 2. Excuse me. It wasn't actually explained properly what killed him. We just knew that he was dying.
Yeah,
it would be interesting if there was some. It might be, but they're supposed to be immortal. Qs are supposed to be immortal. He shouldn't be getting old. He should be omnipotent and going on forever. So, and this is a plot hole or a bad plot for season 2. Why did Q die? It wasn't explained. Wouldn't it be interesting if there was some link to that in season 3 with the Borg?
Maybe something linked to the Borg. Maybe just to go back to Locutus, though, I do wonder whether Locutus. We've seen the Queen Borg. That's never really explained what a queen is, why it's different. But maybe Locutus is some sort of male version or equivalent. Maybe Locutus is, because obviously the Borg are lots of species brought together. They were individuals at some point. Maybe I'm wondering whether it's something deep and dark in the Borg's past, that there's this being, this Locutus, and that he's still there. And that was what was merged with Picard. And what we're going to see as the main villain now is this Locutus, which is a bit of Picard, a bit of whatever that other being was. And it's Locutus.
That's a good point, because you think about queens in the past. When a queen dies, you get another queen. And sometimes they look exactly the same. Sometimes they look slightly different. What if, as you say, it is Locutus? And Picard is going to face his nemesis, his demon, in the last 2 episodes, and this is the threats. That could be really interesting.
Like Security said here, that Deanna does say it's a dark and ancient entity. So maybe it is an ancient Borg entity that exists within the collective. That like a queen, but different, that we've not seen before. Well. And it's back.
We know the Borg have been around for thousands of years. So, as you say, it's been an ancient threat. And it's slowly evolved and increased as the centuries have gone by through assimilation of more and more cultures. I could see that. If they're doing what we think they're doing for the last 2 episodes, they really have got to bring back the Borg, I think. I think it's very likely it's the Borg. I don't quite know how.
I don't even think it could necessarily be the Borg. I actually think it could be just Locutus. Okay. I think it could actually be specifically Locutus that's coming back. The Borg, we know, is still relatively weakened after the battles with 8472 and Voyager spanking their ass as well. But it has been about 30 years since Voyager in this timeline. So we know they assimilate and they can repair themselves quickly. But I'm wondering, is it Locutus that's out for revenge? Maybe, and not necessarily the Borg as a collective. An individual Borg
who's been separated from the collective but has the knowledge of Locutus. I can see where you're coming from. I'd love to see that personally.
It doesn't explain all of Jack's abilities, but nothing does.
No,
to be honest. So we'll have to see. Unless this is all. Hey Donnie, how you doing, sir? Not seen you before, so hello. I thought I'd say hello because I don't recognise the name. If changelings could imitate a decent sausage, I'd eat one. You've then got a changeling in your belly. I don't know what that's. I don't want to see that come back out again.
I love it.
I like that. It's amused me. Sorry.
Cumberland sausage. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, boy, changeling sausage, lovely. But if it's not the Borg, there have been a couple of other ideas knocking about, and one being the Par Wraith.
Yeah.
from Deep Space Nine. So if you don't remember, it was the end of Deep Space Nine. We had the celestial beings that were in the bloody wormhole. Thank you. The prophets, and they had an evil version, the Par-Wraiths, that were trapped on Bajor, and that got released towards the end of that by Golda Cat. So there was one theory that this is the Par-Wraith. I've never quite understood that theory though, because why would the Par-Wraith be so determined to defeat, or well, I mean, they say they're going to destroy the Federation, which we'll talk about what we think that means in a minute, but I'm not sure why the Par-Wraith would be that interested.
I'm trying to think about how the Par-Wraith interacted on DS9 with the Federation. They were, from what I remember, they were more an antagonist for the prophets themselves. They're more interested in destroying the prophets rather than humans and biological. You know what I mean? It's a slightly different thing.
If they'd got hold of Cisco, that would might be different. They might have wanted to give Cisco a bit of a slap, but I never quite made that connection. But it would just be like Terry Metalis to do that and just throw that completely from left wing and just go what? The other thing is, though, I think why I genuinely think it's a Borg is everything's been set up for the Borg. I think there's a little bit of a thing that the Borg were kind of ruined at the end of season 2 of Picard, and they weren't used well. They were supposed to be. That was the big return of the biggest villain from Star Trek, and it was a bit of a wet lettuce. Yes, so I'm thinking Terry Metalis might be thinking, you know what? If I'm doing a TNG series, how do you not have the Borg in it?
That's what I think. That's what I think. Because, I mean, I remember the Borg in the first season where they had this huge Borg cube. And there's this one scene where the Borg are suddenly going to be activating on the ship, and then 7 of 9 or someone just flushes out the airlock, and all the drones just get flushed out. And I remember saying, "No, I want to see proper Borg. I want to see them going along and assimilating people."
Actually, I was sort of like, none of them just held on to something. They all sort of went, "Oh no!"
I know. Normally they can survive in space, and I was so disappointed about that. And then season 2, we had that storyline, which really didn't sort of like do them much justice either. And I just want to see like the Borg from like First Contact, the proper Borg with the proper mate. They actually look like the Borg and they act like the Borg, and everyone's terrified about them and they're so powerful. And wouldn't it be great if the last episode with Federation Day or Frontier Day that you have a fleet of Borg ships coming in? I don't think you're going to get all that, but I'd love to see all that personally. As a space battle guy, I would love to see that.
Oh, I wouldn't mind just to watch one Borg cube turn up.
Oh, I would love to.
Well, we'll come back to that in a second, shall we? Because that was one of the things we were going to talk about.
Yes, sorry, yes.
Do we think there's anything else and any other threats?
There's been people. I mean, the conspiracy aliens from season 1 of the Next Generation with the little blue gills. Most people have shot that down in flames, but I know that Terry Metalis has been asked, and he did consider using them at one point for season 3 because there are some parallels with what they did and where we are in some ways.
So they're changing and taking over key elements.
Yeah, exactly, which they were doing in season 1 of the original TNG. Other people are saying really random things like Armus, the oil slick that killed Tasha Yar. I don't think that's going to happen. That's the two I've heard about.
He's got a lot more powerful if that's him. I always like the conspiracy episode. It's my favorite episode from the first series of TNG. I think the first series of TNG was very Gene Roddenberry, and then this one episode just stuck out. I was like, bloody hell, that was a good episode. But the thing I liked most about that was you've got the guy sat in the chair, and Picard and Riker come in, and they're all very much like, oh, it's a new species, and we should communicate and think. Not that time. They walked in. That thing went down the road, and they just went, "Oh, don't like it, kill."
That was it. They just looked like Picard's face. Maybe he went like, "Ooh, like that," and that was the end of it. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And they're just like, I was like, that's the one thing. We come in peace, shoot to kill, shoot to kill.
Yeah. Star Trek in from 1987. Yeah,
you don't get that very often. It's like that was the one very few occasions where like, no, screw peace, let's shoot it.
So that's why I thought of that parallel with that sort of like that conspiracy alien thing, which was in Starfleet at the time. You couldn't trust anybody, and it was very much a parallel with what I thought. And at the end of that scene, where they say, "Oh, they're still out there. They could come back," and of course, they haven't come back. But we know it's not.
No. It would be a shame. I mean, I think they've come back in a couple of the books.
Okay.
I'd love to see him come back in one of the the comic strips the Star Trek are doing at the moment. Some of them are great. The Cisco one is brilliant. There's this God Killer story, and the Cisco at the moment. It wouldn't work in a TV series or a movie, but in a comic,
some things don't work in a TV. Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
So I mean, I'd love to see them returning that, and it would, like you said, it would end that thread that was just left hanging there, wouldn't it? All right, so we'll get on to the last bit we were talking about. This is the bit I'm probably most excited about.
Okay.
The fleet is all going to be in one place.
Yes.
At the end in the solar system. I've seen some images from the next episode, and you can actually see Starbase 001 and loads of ships surrounding it.
Enterprise F as well. You see
Enterprise F. It's going to be so cool. I can't believe they've got the Enterprise F and they're decommissioning it.
I know. I mean, I thought we were going to actually see like a whole episode or something with it, and it's going to be very briefly seen from what I've gathered of it, which is a real shame.
It's just going to be a flyby.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Oh man, we're going to see this vessel that was designed by a fan basically, and on Star Trek Online, and became the Odyssey class. It's a very cool starship, and we're never going to really see it. The only thing that teases me with that though a little bit. Are we going to see another Star Trip? Are we going to see? Is there a plan to get another Enterprise in the future?
You mean in another series? You mean
movie? I don't know.
Well, if they're decommissioning the F, then surely that suggests we're going to get a G. And I know I have seen some G designs actually.
Yeah, I've seen a couple.
And there's an online one with a deflector dish which has like a line in the middle, and it's really massive. It's a beautiful design. I don't know what the class of it is. I don't know. I'd like to see a new Enterprise. I'd love to see I mean, I know we've got Strange New Worlds, but not contemporary, but a 25th century era Enterprise would be great to see in a series. A real massive thing, a real sort of like powerful thing. I'd love to see
a really cool. But I just wonder why decommission it unless they've got an eye on something. Why bother? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why did they write that little Easter egg in if they weren't going to do something with it? Whether it's going to be a comic book or a game or something, it's going to, that they want to do something with it. I'm saying because she's not very old.
I think she's about 20 years old, though. I'm not sure how long she's been commissioned.
Do you remember Excelsior class starships for like a century?
Oh, they go for 100 years. She's still, exactly.
She's not particular, but they just said she had so much damage from this encounter with whatever it was that she just needed to be decommissioned. But I mean, yeah, it's a shame, and she can't be quite 20 years old because the E went on for about 10, so she must only be about 10 or 15 years old. I did have these dates somewhere once. I'll have to Google it again, but I don't think she's 20 years old. I think she's about 10
or 10 years old. Yeah, actually, thinking about it, I think it was a bit less than 20. I mean, do you wish that we had the season rather than being on the Titan, it would have been the Enterprise F, for instance? Would you have preferred that?
I thought that's where they were going to go with it. I have to admit, when this started and they were bringing all the TNG crew back and it was announced, I was like, well, they've got to go aboard the new Enterprise, didn't they? They've got to. And the fans would go crazy. But I think maybe it could have been a bit cheesy, and maybe they have pulled back from that because the also thing is the whole point was that the Titan was supposed to be weaker than the Shrike. It was not supposed to be able because it's not a combat ship. The new Enterprise would be the flagship of the Federation. So maybe they just thought it's not believable. A lot of the story you want to write, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
so
I can see that.
Why they decided against it, but I don't know. But so the whole fleet is going to be in one place at one time. We know the whole plan the changelings have, or whoever is the puppet master, has to happen on this day. So we have to assume that whatever they're going to do is going to take out the fleet.
Yeah. And
that's the point. Now, again, we could talk about how just nonsensical it makes that the fleet is in one place at one time. The Romulans must have just been like, hey, see how many planets we can take before they come back. You know what I mean? It's like, it makes no sense. But that's the only thing that makes sense, all right? They must be doing something to either destroy or incapacitate the entire fleet. And we know the fleet's connected because they mentioned it, didn't they, in one of the episodes, that there's this thing that
there's some sort of link between each ship so that each ship is traceable. So it's almost like a sort of collective, sort of like a network. kind of thing. So it's not like the older ships where, obviously you could communicate, but it's not like networked. Now, I think that's why, let's just say older ships, I think, are going to play some kind of influence in the last episodes, from what I understand.
And again, why would they mention that? And the whole point about how, I know there's the whole point about that the Titan could be tracked, so they had to sort of deal with that, and that's why they could be
the
tracked.
Cloaking device,
they seem to make that point heavily, so we'd remember that all the ships connected. And they did something similar at the end of Prodigy, the cartoon, which again, if you're a Trekkie and you've not watched it, don't think about it.
I've still not seen that yet. No,
I
will watch it after I've seen. I will.
Well, it's
on your recommendation, I'll check it out.
We see the end of the Enterprise E. So if you're a Trekkie and you want to see how the Enterprise E ended, you got to watch it, because it happens in Prodigy. But the thing about the Prodigy was that there was this living construct, and it could infect any computer system, and it made it basically attack itself. So what it did is loads of the fleet came in, this living construct started affecting the ships, and the ships started attacking each other. And that was like, obviously then it was spreading. So I'm wondering if it's going to be sort of similar like that they've got something that's going to affect, or using Borg technology take over the main control systems of the fleet and incapacitate them that way.
The Borg, of course, are interested in biological and technological aspects. So there could be, I don't know, if it's the Borg, it could be some Borg virus which is communicated through the network of ship systems, and all the ships suddenly, I don't know, they all turn off their life supports or something, or they just crash into each other. I don't know. I mean, it beggars the thought what they could do with it. But if it's involving ships, then that suggests it's going to be involving some sort of technological aspect in respect to why the ships are there and how they can be vulnerable in destroying members of Starfleet, I assume.
Yeah, I think so. It just only makes sense to me. And then obviously that creates an interesting possibility that I think it's fair to say, we've been talking about this today, and I must have looked like a complete idiot because I was just grinning at work like a child. I was like a hee sort of thing. So for one, you mentioned that obviously you think we're going to see the D.
Yes, I do. I'm pretty certain. I'm about 90% certain we're going to see the D.
So I mean, we think that LaForge is hiding something in
the main museum of the Starbase Museum. Yes.
And something he hasn't told anybody about. Could that be the Enterprise D? Or maybe the saucer section has been recovered with a new drive section or something.
That's what I think is going to happen.
That is maybe his pet project, that it's going to be, that he's going to get to show his ship.
Maybe it's going to be a presentation on Frontier Day, and he was going to be a big surprise, and now he's going to use it because it's not on this network system, and it's going to be able to be something he could control and not have this influence, whatever this other thing is.
Yeah. So that does create an interesting but possibly very cheesy possibility that the fleet is going to be disabled. Somebody mentioned it in the comments a second ago, that very much like Battlestar Galactica, and that how
yes,
yeah. So the fleet is incapacitated or being taken over by the Borg, right? At least electronically. A Borg cube or something else appears. And then obviously with the fleet incapacitated, the Borg cube can just take them out. So you need a fleet of vessels that are still operational. There's a museum full of them just down the road. So could we then see a possibility of a fleet of the Enterprise D, the Defiant,
Enterprise A,
the Enterprise A,
Excelsior,
Bounty.
Yeah,
let's see the Bounty. Klingons.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
This fleet of just old ships that are going to fly. The classic Voyager.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
This fleet of classic ships are going to fly in and save the day, sort of thing. And I know. I'm torn by this idea because on one hand I think it's just stupid, and if they go that way, I'm gonna be like, oh come on. But on the other hand,
you'd be so happy. Everyone would be like, I don't care if it's cheesy. This would be so good, even if it's a cheesy idea. You and I and most Star Trek fans would just love it. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it has to be done. It really does. It'd be so cool.
It's almost in a way. I've almost got to the point where anything that happens other than that idea, I'm going to be really disappointed. And I hope not, because this series hasn't disappointed to now.
No, it hasn't. It's done very well. It's been excellent.
I don't see why they would, and it's like Jurati coming and saving the day. Oh dear. But
you never know.
Right, I'm just gonna have a slight rant about the Jurati board.
Go on about Jurati.
Why not? We've got a bit of time. We've got 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, Jurati was supposed to be a good Borg, and she turned up with her space vagina, and which opened up. And
I never saw that before, but thank you for putting that idea in my head.
Anyway, so that turns up, right?
Yep.
Jurati goes aboard the Stargazer and attacks.
Yes.
If she'd have just gone, "It's me," that would have been the end of that series, right? She's just gone, "It's Jurati."
Yeah. Done in 2 minutes. That's the end of the episode. Yeah.
Nothing else happened. Oh, so just to think, Chris, the D wasn't destroyed. The drive section was destroyed. The saucer section then crashed. What we're saying is, did he recover the saucer section and get a new drive section?
Yeah.
So is it still the Enterprise D? If it's mostly a different ship, I don't know. But that's
half D.
Half D. Yeah, just one D, not a double D. One D. But yeah, so there's that whole logical thing about Picard season 2. That Jurati had just took off her helmet and gone, "Calm down, guys. We're all right.
We're fine."
The end of that series.
Yeah.
But the other big problem is that Jurati then, they tried to make out that the Borg are then sort of good. But she's got a collective of beings, right? So she's created tens of thousands of Borg, or whatever it would have taken to build that enormous starship, and create a collective. Unless she has basically got all of them to volunteer, and they've voluntarily become the Borg, Jurati's no better than the Borg. She is still enslaved thousands of beings.
But it wasn't very clearly explained, because from what I understand, the original Borg, a lot of them were destroyed at the end of Voyager season 7 by the transwarp hub thing, but they still existed. And this was a subsect of Borg, this Jurati Borg.
Yeah, and it's completely separate from the actual Borg, yeah.
That it created. Even so, as you say, but as you say, if for her to create that huge ship, which was massive, then surely there would have been a great deal of people assimilated in whatever capacity it is. It wasn't very well explained exactly how it works with the Jurati Borg, so has it?
And Jurati, not a good queen, even though she came and saved the day at the end. And it was just such a stupid episode. It genuinely makes me want to injure myself, just to not watch it again. If somebody made me sit and watch it again, I'd be going, "There are 4 lights, don't make me watch it." I'd give it immediately. That's a Star Trek joke.
Dol Madrid, isn't it? With the Cardassian torture scene. I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, it just always bugged me that it made no sense at all. I do think, I'm hoping they do bring the Borg back just to this one, because it would save the day really, and it would save the Borg. The other thing I was going to say was that I know that Voyager destroyed that one Unimatrix, but 7 of 9 did say that was only 1 of 5. That
you're right. They were like conduits or something, weren't they? And there was about 4 in the whole of the galaxy, and they just destroyed 1. Yes, you're right.
So they only destroyed 1. I think 8472 did a lot of damage to the Borg, which is fair. So they were weakened, and then that attack at Voyager again weakened them. But I just think they'd recovered so fast.
But it's 20 years ago. It's a long time ago. I mean, they would have been re-assimilating other cultures and stuff like that, so they can always build up their numbers again. Since then, it's been quite a long time. So I can see that.
Yeah. After watching season 1, I actually believe I could see 5 lights.
Fair enough.
I actually almost dreamed of being tortured by the Ferengi, by the Cardassians while they're watching that crap.
No.
But I honestly think that season 3 of Picard has saved Star Trek in so many ways.
Are you worried though that we might get a cop out? What if it builds up in the last 2 and it doesn't go to the extremes that we're going to, and it's some ridiculous thing? I don't think it will, because from what I've understood, for people who have seen the entire thing, they say it's really, really good. But there's still a slight worry that they might do something which is like, oh God, did they have to go there? You know what I mean? You've got to be a bit realistic, haven't you? I suppose.
Yeah, I want to see Colmeany come back.
Colmeany! I love Colmeany. I'd love to see him again.
If he's back, I'd love to see him. He's because what I could say, if they have this thing of bringing all the old ships like the Defiant, the Voyager, blah blah blah, they've got to crew them. Mm-hmm. So we could see a bunch of these ships with crew dotted about from all of the series. We could see O'Brien. We could see all of this crew return, and that again, I'd put a shiver down my spine. Then I even thought about it.
I've always said that Harry Kim is going to be the captain of the Enterprise F. I've been saying that since the beginning of season 3. And I just like to see Harry Kim become a captain after being an ensign for 7 years. So I still hope to see him. I don't see anybody else.
I think he's better. I want to still see him as an ensign. I got demoted because we saw him as a captain. He could be. Yeah, we saw him in a captain in the last episode of Voyager because he was captain of that California, that tiddly little spaceship, crap little spaceship. So we saw him as a captain. I would just love to see him still as an ensign, just like, I can't get promoted for shit. It's not fair. Something. I just think it
would be interesting. I mean, you never know. I mean, I think that I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I know that I do know some things which are going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to go on about all of it, but I think that we're going to have some surprises. But I don't know. I mean, you hear things, and like with you, it's some of the things that you hear. Sometimes you hear things, and it doesn't always work out. So in the end, I'm just as in the blind as anybody else. It's not been properly announced and everything, and they can, you can get disinformation. You can get stuff which actually puts you in a tangent, which makes you think one thing and it's completely different. So
we know they do put misinformation out on purpose nowadays, and that is the amount of stuff I get, and I've been caught out by it a couple of times. I know I have. Me following Stargate. I will hear something, and then a couple of weeks later, somebody I speak to will come and touch me and go, "Yeah, that was not true."
Yeah.
And they do it on purpose, because it keeps it interesting. And Marvel are the ones that started it. Marvel became masters at it. It's putting out misinformation, putting out stuff that they were going one way, and then they won't go another.
Right.
But they've used social media so well to try and keep.
And it's to bring up the hype is why they do it, I assume. Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes they'll even film entire scenes of stuff. They'll film things slightly different ways, because they know leaks come from the set. So if there's something really big, they'll film. So they're spending money to trick us. And this is something some of these companies have been doing for a while. And Terry Matalas seems to be really have taken that on board, because I think a few times in this season we've thought we're going one way and we've gone another. It seems to be good at it.
I mean, I was very surprised when the changes came back. I had no idea we're going to see a regular, or not a regular, but a very ominous DS9 threat becoming the threat for this season, as it's from a different Star Trek series.
I thought they kept that under hat really well. I thought.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I was very, very surprised because I didn't quite believe it at first. And of course, then, it wasn't only just the changelings, but it was like a different form of changelings, which is why they didn't quite look like the ones in DS9. It was all done so well. And the thing is, though, is that Terry Matalas, we said this before, but he really does get Star Trek. He's a fan. He this is why, it works so well. Whereas some of these, I'm not going to go into other things too much, but some of the other Star Trek stuff, which potentially might be coming up, might not work so well. Terry Matalas' season 3 has worked. It has been made by a Star Trek fan for Star Trek fans, and that is why it's done so well.
Yeah, it is. He definitely adores the thing. I think it would be an awful, awful shame if we don't get more Trek being run by Terry Matalas. I put a video out actually just today. Go and have a look if you haven't looked at it.
I did see it. Actually, I saw it. It's very good.
It's one of those videos. I hope it's not true, but it's a rumor I keep hearing over and over again that actually Alex Kurtzman is a little bit jealous of the success of Picard season 3.
Yeah, because he's gone very quiet ever since that Picard has become quite popular in the second half of season 3. It's building up momentum, and it's not what he envisioned. He's just kind of put his name to it, but he's not been a person who's actually been involved with creating season 3. He's only been he's just like on the list, and he wants Section 31, which I'm not that bothered about,
No.
And but I do wonder though, because the one hope is that we had First Contact Day, April the 5th recently, where a lot of people like me were expecting some big announcement of a new Star Trek series, especially with all the new Star Wars series which are coming up. There's a lot of things that happened last weekend. Do you think that they didn't say anything because they could potentially be saving something up for when Picard season 3 wraps and there's some big announcement?
It would not surprise me if they announced something as part of the last 2 episodes.
Okay.
I mean, they're putting these last 2 episodes in IMAX cinemas, in certain cinemas around America.
I've heard that. Yep,
they are very aware that this has gone well.
Mm-hmm.
And Trekkies like us have adored this series, so they're very aware of that.
Yeah.
I honestly think they were planning to announce Section 31 on it's gone out my head, on April 5th. On First Contact Day.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I think they were planning on doing that. I think it makes no sense that they announced Starfleet Academy a week before that and then announced nothing on April 5th. If there's a load of memes going around, and the thing of when Data first comes through the picture and so through the window and he's looking all angry, and LaForge goes, "Law." The meme was Paramount's marketing department. And him looking all pissed off, and because the marketing department at Paramount must have been like going, why would we announce it a week before when we've got
that was strange. That was odd. That was odd.
A week later, and you didn't mention anything.
No, that was really strange.
The rumor I've heard, and it is just a rumor, is that they were going to announce Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh, and they thought they had Michelle Yeoh tied down, and then they suddenly realized they didn't.
Okay.
And she is maybe not going to be available. So that has caused all sorts of issues.
Right.
But I've got another video coming up about that potentially, but it doesn't make any sense. But we have got other Star Trek birthdays through the year. There is Star Trek Day much later in the year, and in August time. There is Federation Day. So we do have other anniversaries, as it were, to maybe announce something. But I'd have thought it's like having an advert in the Super Bowl, isn't it? You announce something. It's what they did last year, to be fair, with the TNG, didn't they? They did it on the very last sort of episode.
Yes, that's right.
And then we saw Worf and everything come through, and you had that brilliant little end bit where we're like, oh my God, we're going to get the TNG crew back. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I remember that. I was blown away when that announcement came through. It was like, oh my God, it was amazing.
So if they don't, if nothing gets announced as part of the last 2 episodes, I will be starting to get a little bit concerned about the future of Star Trek.
Right.
I will admit, because there seems to be something going on behind the scenes we're not quite getting the full picture of. We see the smoke, but we're not seeing the fire, if that makes sense. And it may just be that the problem is there are big factions within our fan base that hate Alex Kurtzman. They hate Discovery. They hate everything that's been touched. They hate the J.J. Abrams Star Treks. They hate them. I don't like them. They hate them. And I mean properly, Triple H sort of thing.
Really toxic element of the fan base is what you're saying.
Yeah. Going to an extreme though. But then they take every little piece of information and everything is twisted into, well, that's Alex Kurtzman's fault. And Alex Kurtzman is not Satan. He just isn't. He might not be a very good show.
He just doesn't get Star Trek personally. I don't think. I mean, I just feel that I don't hate him. I feel that I would rather have Terry Metalis running the system rather than him. Very much so. But in the end, I've always said this: that they did listen to the comments of Discovery, and they decided eventually to do Strange New Worlds because we wanted a standalone Star Trek adventure series. And we got it, and they did it really well. And they got Picard back, which I'm still surprised that we actually got. So, all right, the first 2 seasons weren't very good, but the third has been, singing its praises of how good it is. We've all been singing its praises. Did I just see someone say they want Wei-Yoon back? Because I wanted Wei-Yoon back as well.
We heard that rumor, didn't he, that he was going to be back in the Dominion?
I thought he was going to come back. Yeah, I'm sorry about
that. I generally have to check my passport every so often to make sure I'm not played by
Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs. I'm sorry. Am I Jeffrey Combs? Everybody else
might be.
So I just have to check every so often. I'm not.
You could deep fake your face or something, and you could make yourself look like Jeffrey Combs.
You're not Jeffrey Combs, are you?
Well, I'm not saying. I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Combs could walk into this house, pretend to be me, and my wife would buy it. He's such a brilliant actor. But
I actually got a reply from him once on Twitter. He was really nice. He was going on about his first role. He played this character DS9 who lusted after Kira, and he wanted a holodeck program of Kira. And I can't remember his character, but it was very funny. It was his first.
It was the Ferengi one he did, wasn't it? I think.
No, it wasn't. He played.
He did play a Ferengi.
Yeah, he did. He played two. He played one on Enterprise and Brunt as well.
Yeah, he's great
actor. Yeah, he was brilliant.
I just don't believe he's not popped up as a character. I just can't believe you'd get him in as to do something, wouldn't you? Just because
did he do an animated series on Lower Decks? Did he do his voice for an episode?
Yeah, he did a voice for Lower Deck. Yeah.
So he's still doing stuff. So you think he'd come back?
Yeah. I just love him. I think if they don't bring him back again, that would be a shame. And again, you wouldn't have to pay him anything. He'd probably just turn up, give him bloody taxi fare. And like I say, the fans would go crazy. But that would be awesome. So before we call it an evening, because it's a work night after all.
Actually, I'm off this week, but yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm only in today, and I volunteered to do today. To be honest, I was supposed to be off today, but I volunteered. They were short, so I volunteered. What was I thinking? I was thinking that I wanted a week off in a couple of weeks. That's what I was thinking. I'll save a holiday day back. Anyway, so I'd love to. Is there anything that you are really excited about for the last 2 episodes? And is there anything that you are worried about? Is there something that if it happened, you'd be like, shit, or I know I sort of dropped that on you a little bit, but
okay. The things I'm excited for are things we've already mentioned, and potentially because I'm a big ship guy. So hopefully seeing some more classic starships like the Enterprise D, which I think is likely. Things that would disappoint me is if it was some obscure. But I think we're going to see something that we've seen before. So I think that's kind of like that's not going to happen. But I'm just hoping it's not something which we are familiar with in Star Trek, but it's to a less degree, and it's kind of shoehorned in, and it doesn't have a relevance really to the Picard series. But I think that as it's the end of the Next Generation properly, I think that's unlikely. That's the best way I can explain. How about you? What do you think?
I did hear a theory that Pizza Face, the main villain, was actually species 8472. And that was just his theory. Because he said, look, we've had a villain from DS9, we've had a villain from TNG, it's got to be a villain from Voyager, and 8472 is that villain. And that was his theory. If they do that, I'll be like, that makes no effing sense. But actually, species 8472 would have a grudge against the Federation, because it was Voyager that defeated
them. There was an episode in Voyager where we saw species 8472 who had rebuilt Starfleet Academy, and they were making their own sort of practice of actually infiltrating Earth. I'm thinking about it, actually. This is when they took human form.
That's where he was getting his theory from.
As you said that, I suddenly collected the dots. That's a potential.
Now, that would be interesting. And we know they were very advanced technologically.
That's right.
I would be disappointed if it's not the Borg at this point. If they have had so many hints that it's the Borg. I don't think it's the Borg necessarily as a whole. I think it's Locutus. Right?
Okay.
I think it's Locutus that is the threat. And that might be just the being that was Locutus that, merged with thing. Right. And Weekly Equation has just made that point. 8472 were telepathic. Yeah. So that might have been, but how that got into Picard's head, I don't know. But and then into his son's head. But I do have a worry that they might go that way. But if they do it right, it still could be amazing. Don't get me wrong. Because the one thing I did wonder was, is it a species, not the Borg, but using Borg technology? So is it 8472 using the Borg technology that's in Picard's head to take out the Federation.
But then how are the changelings involved?
They're just using the changelings because 8472 can't. They're not physically in our realm.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah.
And that's where it's coming from. And you know what? The more I'm talking about it now, the more I'm thinking that guy might be a freaking genius and he might have figured it out.
It could be.
It
could be because it will then tie in with the whole of the 3 Star Trek series in that era. Then it would be something from DS9, something from Voyager, and something from TNG.
It would be from all 3.
Yeah, it would be like combination of all 3 together.
Yeah. Oh, crap. I think he might have figured it out and I called him an idiot.
Mind you, I know that we hear rumours and stuff. I have heard rumours from more than one source that say that the big villain in the last 2 episodes is a DS9 character villain. Whatever that is. I can't give you any more because I don't know.
The Power Wraith, then.
Unless it's Locutus who's come back from the Power Wraith or something.
I did see that they saw that when we saw Pizza Face.
I know we saw a slight yeah.
I think they've done that on purpose. I think they've very much done that Pizza Face to look like lots of different things.
Again, is Mark Calamo still busy though? Is the actor still doing stuff? Who plays Picard? I don't know.
But I mean, maybe. I would be disappointed if it was something like that. But actually, to be fair, I've just talked myself into believing that if it is 8472, I'll be okay with it, actually. I've just talked myself into it.
And of course, they'd have 7 and 9 who knows 8472. She'd be a character who could actually be involved with explaining to them.
I don't think of that either. And that's why Vadik was saying it's good that it's great that you're here.
It could be that because she's had the experience of 8472.
I think we might have figured it out, man.
We'll find out hopefully very soon. We should be getting the answer tomorrow at least to who the actual main protagonist is. So
it's Rom. Rom's the villain.
Rom.
Human.
Why not? Yeah. What if he's still married to Lita? Yeah.
But anyway, as you said, it's dropping tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm not watching it till Friday, partly because I'm doing a 12-hour shift tomorrow.
Oh,
stupid thing. Then I've got to get up early. I'm getting up early Friday. My wife's just like, "Why?"
I won't talk for too long tonight. Then I was going to need to go to bed probably. So, but
yeah. I was just like, why are you getting up at 6? Watch Star Trek? Are you kidding me?
I would be.
You get up.
I watched Star Wars this morning. I watched Star Wars really early this morning. I know you're not so much of a Star Wars fan, but Mandalorian season 3, episode 7 was very good. That's what I'm saying.
I've heard a couple of people say it's brilliant. I've heard people say that it's gone from the worst episode of Mandalorian to one of the best.
I didn't mind the last one, but this one's very good. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
I didn't hate it. I hated the episode before that with the big flying thing that made no sense. With the it swallowed the kid and then spat the kid up.
Spat it out and it was like holding on to it. It was still, I remember that one. Yeah.
Stupid episode. I've not enjoyed Mandalorian this season as much, but I love Katie Sackhoff.
She's great. And I will give you a very small spoiler. The latest episode has started to have small connections towards the sequel era. You'll see some interesting things which are starting to come up. That's what I'm saying. And I like what they did. That's what I'm saying.
They need to stop setting up TV shows or spin-offs that aren't now going to happen, though. They've set up a few spin-offs and then Disney
haven't happened.
And decided we're not doing that anymore. But thank you so much, everybody that's joined us tonight. Look, we've had really great numbers of people watching live.
Thank you.
We love talking about Star Trek, and we'll talk about it till the cows come home. We cannot wait. I think I've been invited onto your channel in a couple of weeks.
Yes, a couple of weeks' time you'll be on the Solo on Sci-Fi podcast reviewing season 3 of Picard. We can't wait to have you. It's going to be a great show.
Yeah, I'm going to come in and just bitch.
You can do whatever you like. You're perfectly welcome too. We're very easygoing. It'll be good fun.
Beverly Crusher said the changelings have evolved. Stupid. How can there be evolution?
How can she say that? Yeah.
That's not evolution means. And then I'm going to read the dictionary definition of evolution out to you. Evolution is. Beverly's supposed to be a bloody doctor. You idiot. So yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna be really negative and grumpy all the way through it. As if I'm never negative and grumpy. Sometimes. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank
you for inviting me. It's been nice to be on.
It's a fascinating conversation. We've been geeking it out. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you very soon. And as I said, we'll see you over on Solo One Podcast in a couple of weeks. And obviously, you're going to be back with us at some point when we think
whenever you need me. Yeah, I'll be back, definitely.
Because about once a month or so, we'll do a live video and we'll get over and we'll talk about something. So,
lovely.
As always. I'm going to throw up a couple of quick adverts and then we're out of here.
Sidetrack also has some amazing merch. Get yours today and show your support at side-track.com. 9chevrons.com. 9chevrons.com is your dedicated source for Stargate news, which will aim to complement this YouTube channel with news that we have from our contacts at MGM and Amazon, breaking news about a new potential Stargate series, as well as providing reviews and any potential updates to news stories that we break. Check out some of the news articles that we have already at 9chevrons.com.
I'm going to have to do those adverts again at some point, but I have to throw them on.
Yeah,
bye-bye, guys.